everyone. I, Harsheen Anand, is your MC today. And on behalf of YBI team, I welcome Justice Kurian Joseph, former judge, the Supreme Court of India, Mr. Jitendra Mohan Sharma, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India, Mr. Sanpreet Singh Rajmani, Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Last, not the least, all the distinguished guests and all the participants. I welcome all the participants to the inaugural session of virtual National Summer School on today's topic, Introduction to Mediation and Alternative Dispute Resolution. Before we start, I just request Mr. Sanpreet Singh Rajmani, President of YPI, to briefly introduce about the Society, Youth Bar Association of India. Please, sir.
Regards to all the speakers, Honorable Justice Kurian Joseph, Mr. Jitendra Mohan Sharma, Senior Advocate, Santan Sir, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, and worthy participants. Youth Bar Association of India is a registered society having its branches throughout the nation, which aims to bring justice to the marginalized and downtrodden section of the society. Not only this, but through various awareness programs, we also create awareness among the unaware masses about the legal recourses that is available to them under the law. Apart from such social mobilizing events, YBAI has been undertaken some really praiseworthy and notable works in strengthening the laws and society by seeking indulgence of various honorable courts, which includes judgment like Youth Bar Association of India versus Union of India, whereby FIRs were directed to be uploaded in the website within 24 hours by the Honorable Apex Court. The second judgment is Habib Khan versus State of Uttarakhand, whereby the Honorable Supreme Court held that Class 4 employees working under temporary establishment are also entitled for pension benefits. Another judgment is Youth Bar Association of India versus State of Uttarakhand, whereby the Honorable Uttarakhand High Court directed the striking doctors to call off the strike within 20 minutes. It is also worth noting that YBI has been awarded prestigious National Law Day Award in 2017 by Shrimati Pratibha Patil, former President of India, in recognition of devotion to study and practice principles of public interest litigation. I welcome you on behalf of YBI and thanks all the worthy speakers to join this session. Over to you, Harsheen.
Thank you, Sanpreet sir. Before we begin, I would just briefly like to share the idea of starting this summer school on mediation for 10 days. YBI have been doing a lot of webinars in this pandemic in order to keep on the process of learning. We have recently concluded an international webinar on mediation along with Supreme Court mediators, Singapore International Mediation Center, and Commonwealth lawyers on 27th of June 2020. This event was chaired by Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Judge, the Supreme Court of India, wherein all our panelists emphasized on the importance of mediation for the budding lawyers, and it was a resounding success as this webinar has been viewed by more than 2,000 viewers. Taking from there, our President, Mr. Sanpreet Singh Rajmani, who is also an advocate and counselor, decided to take it forward along with Mr. Rahul Kumar, National President of YBI Student Wing, to launch a summer school for 10 days with eminent legal luminaries and experts of this field to best equip the young budding minds with the concept of ADR with special reference to mediation. Today we have Honorable Mr. Justice Kurian Joseph, former judge, the Supreme Court of India, for the inaugural session of Virtual National Summer School on Mediation, who is known for his humane and compassionate approach to law, a strong supporter of mediation even on the bench. Justice Joseph was known for urging parties embroiled in litigation pertaining to personal relationships to settle their dispute amicably. Since retirement, Justice Joseph has been focused on using ADR approaches such as mediation, arbitration, and conciliation to support parties to find sustainable, long-lasting solutions. He is routinely appointed by Supreme Court of India and various high courts to act as a mediator and arbitrator. Justice Joseph is also on the panel of mediators at Singapore International Mediation Center. Justice Joseph completed his LLB at Kerala Law Academy Law College in 1979 and enrolled as an advocate at Kerala Bar Bench in 1979. He has undergone Advanced Mediation Skills Program designed by Singapore International Mediation Center. He became a High Court judge in the year 2000 and was elevated as a judge of Supreme Court of India in 2013. As Judge of Supreme Court of India, Justice Joseph has delivered landmark judgments in cases like striking down of constitutional amendment of NJAC and in striking down the practice of triple talaq. He was one of the 10 judges in the history of the Supreme Court of India to have delivered more than 1,000 judgments. On the bench, he demonstrated his support for speedy delivery of justice by disposing more than 8,600 cases pending in the Supreme Court of India. Thank you, sir, for being kind enough to have the invitation accepted and gracing the event today. I request you to kindly deliver your inaugural speech and share your insights on the topic, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Harsheen. A very warm good morning to all of you, particularly my dear friend Jitendra Mohan Sharma, Mr. Santan, and Mr. Sanpreet Singh, and all other good friends, some of whom I can see on the video. I really appreciate the steps you have taken. It's a really meaningful and well thought out step taken by the Youth Bar Association. These are the needs of the hour. You have always been addressing current issues also. So to me, I feel from the point of view of bar, from the point of view of bench, and from the point of view of the litigants, and of course the public, this is high time that all the stakeholders seriously pondered or deliberated on the need for anti-clogging systems, anti-clogging measures in court. In the last 3 to 4 months, nobody has been there physically in court, not even judges. But after about a couple of months, we have been able to resume the activity of the service organization partly by holding virtual courts. Whether it is court, whether it is physical or virtual, court is court. It's a service that is rendered to the people to redress their grievances, to settle their disputes, and to protect their rights. So as far as protection of rights, resolution of disputes, and redressal of grievances are concerned, these are the 3 key functions of a service institution called court. Whether in the change in the times or in these testing times, it will be possible for this organization or this institution or the court to handle everything as it was handling formerly. That's a big question. Now, many of you, and certainly the public, do have their issues, and though they have been entrusted to you for filing in trial courts, you were not able to file those cases. Many cases which the people honestly and genuinely thought they would get a redressal, they will get a result from court in a time-bound manner, are all indefinitely postponed. And many lawyers who had been waiting to have their part of the fees paid after the execution of the decrees or the orders, well, those executions also have been put on hold. And people like us who have been on the arbitration and mediation consultation. Initially, for some time, we were also stuck. So when we were stuck like this, we explored the possibility of continuing the process or taking our mission forward by bringing people on the virtual platform. True, there have been some initial difficulties. Well, thereafter, once it becomes a question of to be or not to be, we'll certainly think for to be. It's simply a human nature that when you have several options, you may not go opt for anything. But when you have only one option, you will certainly choose for that because it's the only option left. So in this pandemic and post-pandemic, according to me, the only option left for us to have an expeditious resolution of our disputes, settlement of issues, and disposal of the cases, and taking the profession forward in a new direction is taking recourse to alternate dispute resolution mechanisms. And as far as the alternate dispute resolution mechanisms are concerned, arbitration is wholly governed by a statute, the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. It has a long-term procedure also. It's not as simple as that we see in any other area. And then it can be challenged also. It can be challenged at the initial stages also. And sometimes even for the initiation, you require the intervention of the court. And then it can be challenged not only once, twice also. So that is the disadvantage of probably the arbitration, and sometimes it becomes expensive also. Well, in Lok Adalat, you need the people and also the what you call the chairpersons, or what you call the people presiding all the Lok Adalat also, to sit together, discuss, and come to a settlement as guided by them or as requested by them with the cooperation of the lawyers also. Then that is called an award. That is wholly governed by the Legal Service Authorities Act. And that also can be challenged not under the Act, but by a writ petition. Because the award is a decree for all purposes, it's only, it is beyond challenge. It can only be challenged under Article 226 on a very limited ground, because it is something, an award is something which is passed with your participation. You have signed, your council have signed, and the members of the Lok Adalat also have signed. But it is also a little long-run process where you have to discuss, meet, and so on and so forth. The other is conciliation. Conciliation, according to me, has two dimensions. One, a conciliation as contemplated under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, wherein the conciliator can also be an evaluator, and he can persuade and to some extent, though not a legal language, pressurize the parties to come to a settlement, lest the consequences should follow. That conciliation award also is an executable decree. Then comes the last option on which we are now concentrating today, that is mediation. Mediation, as on today, does not have any legal framework. It's not covered, the process of which is not covered by any statute, except that it is an alternate dispute resolution mechanism permitted under law in view of the amendment in the CPC under section 89. That is a mode permitted. Though it existed in the Indian mind, the mind of India, from time immemorial, that there used to be mediators at the village level. There used to be mediators attached to maybe temples, churches, mosques, and other religious institutions. There were mediators involved, but mediators organized by civil society movements, etc. It took some shape by an accepted mode of resolution of disputes by the amendment to CPC in section 89. And that is in respect of the matters pending before a court. The presiding officer, or called the judge, will have to form an opinion first that this is a case fit enough for one of the appropriate modes of ADR. And this is the second dimension of conciliation I wanted to comment on. It's a judge-involved conciliation. If there is a judge, if there is a court which is actually interested and committed for a settlement through conciliation, it can be involvement of the judge also in conciliation, and the parties can reach a solution. And that is very rarely seen. Though in my career as a judge, I always practiced this judge-involved conciliation in court, open court. We have been quite successful also in many cases, wherever even after several rounds of mediation and conciliation have failed also in court, the judge-involved conciliation has found the miraculous results. That's a different part. Let me come to the mediation part only. So in mediation, probably what is available are only in India, the guidelines laid down by the respective committees attached to either the Supreme Court or the High Court. In Supreme Court, we have MCPC, Mediation Conciliation Project Committee. That MCPC has been laying down guidelines and requiring the mediation centers attached to each High Court to take into consideration the local situation and lay down guidelines, and also engage only the trained mediators. Though there is an element of mediation in every one of us, born as human beings, yet as a professional mediator, you need to be trained as to the approaches you have to take, as to the principles you have to follow, and as to the legitimacy it has to take effect. Legitimacy it should have. So that is how we introduced initially 40 hours of training for mediators. There are hundreds of such mediators available in the country now, who have been trained under the aegis of the Mediation Conciliation Project Committee of the Supreme Court, either by the High Courts or by the Supreme Court directly. The Supreme Court Bar Association also recently, in last vacation, Mr. Sharmaji was there, and the association president, Mr. Khanna, at that time was also there. They took the initiative for such a training of the intending lawyers also. It was a wonderful session that was held, and I also had an opportunity to address them. Well-known mediators and trainers across the country addressed the trainees, or rather the lawyers, and we had a wonderful session. So that's the train. Why should it be a trained mediation? The mediation should be trained because the mediator should know that it is not simply what you call a natural art, but it is an art which needs to be trained. It's a trained and formed art. And art and craft of mediation is something which you will get only after a proper training. Even after being a judge for about 19 years, when I participated in the training program, 2-day training program conducted by the Singapore International Mediation Center, then only I realized that many of the things which I've been practicing could have been done in a better way, in an organized way and a professional way. So to get things organized and professionally executed, you need to be a trained mediator. That's why I really wanted to congratulate this summer school on mediation, an initiative undertaken by the Youth Bar Association. Well, because the qualities that are required for a mediator to be a neutral person, the paramount importance that has to be given to the credibility or acceptance of the mediator, what stage you can be an evaluative mediator, and how do you identify the underlying issues and then reach to the interest and then to the options and then evolve alternatives. How do you facilitate parties? How do you resume the communication between the parties? How do you establish the relationship? How do you make it clear to the parties that what the problem actually is? And how do you help the parties to evolve their own solutions? And how do you evaluate the legitimacy of the the options evolved? And how do you finally reach a settlement of the disputes with a commitment to honor the settlement? These are the stages, or these are the important principles governing the mediation, which every aspect is, that's not a question of teaching as to how to do it. So you can't teach a person about the theory of swimming. You can learn swimming only by actual swimming. You can't learn swimming on a virtual platform. You need to swim in water and learn what actually swimming is. Though virtually on the virtual platform, you can tell them so many principles on swimming, but ultimately, if you don't want to go down under the water and get drowned, and you not need to know the art of swimming, you need to be trained as to how to swim. This is the difference I see as far as training in mediation, actual mediation is concerned. Therefore, a proper training, even though on the virtual platform, I really appreciate this well-meaning step taken by Youth Bar Association of India. I congratulate you, and I also congratulate Mr. Sharma and Mr. Sandam and Mr. Sanpreet, who are partakers of this noble venture. And I wish you all the best. And people like us who have, I do boast myself to have some sort of a passion for mediation. So people like us are anytime available for any sort of assistance for the members of the Youth Bar Association, or any, for that matter, any member of the bar who are so dear to me, for any assistance in the matter of this ADR in mediation or consultation or conciliation, whatever method you want. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best. And these few words, and invoking God's blessings, I formally inaugurate this summer class on mediation, a noble initiative undertaken by the Youth Bar Association of India. God bless you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for giving an excellent coverage over the topic. And you have rightfully pointed out that mediation is an art, and mediator needs to be trained so that disputes can be amicably settled between the litigants. And thank you, sir. Now I request Mr. Jitendra Mohan Sharma, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India, who is also the patron of Youth Bar Association of India. I'll just briefly introduce Mr. Sharma. He's in practice in Supreme Court for last more than 28 years. Sir did his course in mediation from Singapore Arbitration Center in 2007 and from Harvard Law School in 2008. Thereafter, since 2009, he is a mediator in Supreme Court Mediation Center and is conducting private and court NH mediation. He is also a patron of Youth Bar Association of India and is one of his own kind and a gem in the crown of legal fraternity. It is a pleasure to have you here, sir. I request you to please share your views on mediation with us.
Thank you, Harshin. Honorable Justice Kurian Joseph, Judge Supreme Court, and a great mediator and a wonderful human being. Sanpreet Singh, the President of Youth Bar Association. Mr. Santhan Krishnan, mediator and a former President of Commonwealth Lawyers Association. Ms. Harshin. Rahul, who is a person who are behind all this technical programming and all dear students. It's always a great pleasure to hear a person like Justice Kurian Joseph, whichever way, whichever in audience, at whichever place you are in. He speaks from his heart, and that is greatness. He minces no words because heart speaks what he feels like. And a person, he is a good person and a blessed soul. Students, dear students, I always feel great happiness in interacting with you. And in fact, about last fortnight, when Harshin just mentioned it, that there was a mediation program in which Singapore International Mediation Center president was there, George Lim. There was a president of Commonwealth Lawyers Association, Brian Spears was there, and a father figure in Indian Mediation Center, in Indian mediation, Sri Ram Panchu was there, and our dear friends who were credit mediator in Supreme Court, Rakesh Khanna and Santan Krishnan, Rajiv Datta were there. So, Sanpreet Singh said that there are more than 200 students, 200, 500 to be more precise, those who participated in that program. It is just after 4 or 5 days, he made a request. He said, sir, there is an enormous request from students. Those who have missed it or those who want to participate, they want to have it because of shortage of time, they may not be able to understand the real concept of mediation. They want to have a summer school. Would you go for it idea? The first person came to my mind when he shared this idea with me was Justice Joseph. And I requested him and he readily agreed. His heart also goes for the young students. And we always will be all mediators I requested, those who participated in that, maybe some time, maybe variations because some people, those who are abroad, some are in Great Britain, Ireland, and some are in Singapore or elsewhere. So there may be a little time variation for students. So please bear with us. So today it was, of course, 11 o'clock starting, but otherwise it could be different timings. For students, I just make out, when we go for a lawyer's profession, we assume it that as a litigating lawyer, we'll be going to appearing in a court where there will be an adjudicating process. In an adjudicating process, there are set norms of process of evidence, process of arguing, process of pleadings, and we represent one point of view. Or the lawyer from other side represents the other point of view, and the judge sitting there, after hearing both the parties, relying upon the set norms, the precedents of law, the established principles of law, decides in favor of one party. That's known as adjudicatory process. In adjudicatory process, which has been continuing for a long time and has been established in certain litigations, it is absolutely relief oriented. In a criminal jurisprudence, where the state or where the offenses are there against the public, then then adjudicatory process is the right way, where the court has to decide it that whether this person is a guilty or not, then the adjudicatory process goes for it. Over a period of time, it was evolved that in certain classes of cases, certain categories of cases, where there is a dispute between wife, husband, there is a dispute between family, brothers, sisters, the dispute between relationships, the neighbors, two neighbors are there. Even the adjudicatory process has got its own limitation. And in adjudicatory process, while they are finding a truth, at times leaves one party dissatisfied. So therefore, all throughout the world, this process of mediation and having a settlement was already in existence in all human nature, because as a child we have seen our mothers, our elder brothers or some elders resolving our disputes with my sibling by finding a solution, out of box solution. So the legal brains throughout the world realized and evolved a process of mediation. They said that in place of adjudicating that A is right and B is wrong, or B is right, A is wrong, let's evolve a process where the parties resolve their dispute by way of settlement. So this process of arriving at a settlement was named as a mediation process. The mediation process, as I told you, everybody undergoes a mediation process. One way or the other, one has always been a mediator throughout the life, from starting from the family. But this mediation, what evolved under the law, is a structured process. It is just like it. If you ask a child that, do you know counting up to 10? He said, yes, sir, I know counting up to 10. He said, okay, tell us. And he starts with 9, 7, 3, 2, and he count all 10. The structured process is, you tell him that it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and like this. The only difference is this structured mediation and this training program is that the mediators are being taught to do mediation in a structured manner, in a systematic manner, so that the chances of not arriving at a settlement are minimized. In the process of training, in the process of the next 10 days, all students will come across what are the nuances of mediation. But this is the basic difference which we make out about mediation and adjudicating process. While in a court, there is an adjudicating process which decides about adjudication and decides A party is wrong or B party is wrong. And in that process, once the parties put their case stands before the court, then it is the court which decides it. So the adjudicatory process is always a court-centric, be it court or be it even arbitration. Arbitration is also an adjudicatory process where it's a arbitrator-centric. Of course, it has got little more flexibility in the rules, but arbitration and courts are all adjudicatory process. In a mediation, the process is all party-based, party-centric. The parties are at the center, and mediator is only a facilitator. Unlike a court or an arbitrator who adjudicates, the mediator only helps the parties to arrive at a settlement. And in the process, at times, because of his training, he works as an evaluator only. The parties decide whether the dispute is to be resolved or not. If they say, sorry sir, we don't want this resolution to be happened, the mediator can't force, unlike in court. Unlike in court, even where the withdrawal, the court would say, okay sir, if you are withdrawn, then so many 23 rule 1, so many conditions are there, or not process or cost or anything. In a mediation, it's a party centric. So the parties decided they don't want to go and they don't want to go to mediation. Then, since it's a party centric, so the parties decided, because they who created the dispute, they only knows that what is its best solution. Another great advantage of mediation over an adjudicatory process is, while in an adjudicatory process, whatever the dispute you are presenting to the court will adjudicate only that dispute. in mediation, while you are settling the dispute, suppose there is a matrimonial dispute about a wife husband, whether they want to go in a relationship or not. In a settlement, they can decide in a settlement about the child custody, about the future maintenance, alimony, what will be their relationship. They can even divide their properties, which they have got in their own name or in the joint name. All things can be settled in that matter. Suppose there is a brothers, sisters, there is a partition suit in a relationship. The dispute is with regard to a property. In a mediation, you can involve all other property. So this is one of the greatest advantage of mediation. Now, I just gave you the concept of adjudicatory process and a mediation process. As I told you in the beginning, the mediation has got its limitation and its advantages. In a criminal cases, no, nowadays, recently, courts are trying to get even in criminal cases. In criminal cases, there is a provision for 320, which you CRPC, that's a compounding of cases. Those are limited cases where that could be compounded. But there is another aspect of regarding to the little more serious offenses that can also be resolved by way of settlement. And there is a reported matter where there's in a case of 307, the proceedings, the criminal case was quashed because 307 IPC, attempt to murder case, which was proceedings were quashed because the parties had decided to settle the matter. There was a family dispute. Even I am in a one matter before a Supreme Court where there is a dispute between two brothers and there is a criminal case of 307. The court said, why don't you explore the possibility of settlement? And it is still under the process. Because of COVID, it couldn't work out. So therefore, this is still pending. So now courts are venturing much more to resolve the dispute. Another great advantage of mediation for Indian scenario is that in India, the litigation is always multifaceted. Say like a litigation between a landlord-tenant dispute. A landlord files a petition for eviction. Now tenant always want to avoid getting eviction. So therefore, on the advice, I would say it's not the advice, it's not the proper advice, improper advice. So many other litigations are filed of X, Y, Z, and they accumulate in the process, in the judicial system, where a judge who is supposed to decide the important matters is flooded with such type of unnecessarily avoidable litigations. So if such litigations are stopped at the very beginning by way of mediation, they could be settled, then they will not go to the courts, and the court would be able to decide more important cases. Till now, mediation has been only being done, it's a court annexed mediation. Truly, as Justice Joseph has said, that for mediation, there is no statute as such, unlike arbitration, which is being recognized as an Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. However, mediation as a mode, which is still in the process, and very soon something may be coming, but till it is not there, so we are going it at the present stage. However, the mediation as a process is being found under Section 89 Civil Procedure Code, though it has been found under the Industrial Disputes Act in 1947 also, where they were used as a conciliation, and now under the Commercial Codes Act also it is being found as a mediation. Under Arbitration and Conciliation Act also, Section 30 provides mediation as a option. for forming an award, and which gives an opportunity or an impetus or an opening a gate where there could be a pre-litigation mediation. Till now, almost about a few time back, it was only a court annexed mediation. When a matter is being referred to a court, litigation is pending, and therefore there the court finds that there is a possibility of mediation or it could be resolved by way of settlement, it refers to the matter to the mediator. But nowadays, recently, it's a recent phenomenon about within a year or so, there are pre-litigation mediation also, where if the two litigation, there is a possibility of litigation between A and B, they request to the pre-litigation mediation center to resolve it. In Commercial Courts Act, there is a statutory requirement that before filing a court taking up the matter, it will resolve for a mediation. So with these words, I once again thank you, Sanpreet Singh ji, and thank you, Justice Kurian Joseph. Always been a great help and wonderful human par excellence. And Santan Krishnan, Arshin, and all dear students, thank you very much. And please do attend all these classes. It is wonderful experience for all of you. You had an opportunity to have an interaction with possibly who are the best legends in the world, not in country, throughout the world in the field of mediation. Thank you, Harshit.
Thank you, sir, for comprehensively educating us on the topic. Now we are about to start our interactive session. And Rahul, can we take them on audio?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
So please let each participant one by one who have the questions to raise their questions to the eminent speakers so that can be addressed.
Krishna, you can come up with your question.
Yes, sir. So good morning to everyone. So I have this question. So can mediation be as successful as arbitration in settling of commercial disputes in the present era?
Lordship. Lordship's mic.
Krishna, can
Am I
you
audible
please...
now? Yeah, am I audible now? Yeah, I think
Yes,
I'm
yes, sir.
Lordship.
Yeah. See, mediation, according to me, is more successful than arbitration. I have tried mediation in arbitration also. I have several success stories in mixing up this mediation with arbitration. One arbitration I settled in the second sitting through mediation. Another arbitration through mediation I settled once the issues, once the arguments are over. One arbitration that is being settled now is actually at the stage where the council themselves have been very cooperative and they said being a dispute in terms of money only, let's try mediation. In all these, of these three cases, two I tried mediation because the parties insisted that the arbitrator himself should be the mediator. I tried mediation, very successful. Well, in another case, we outsourced the mediation. And the mediator settled many disputes, but some of which needed some adjudication, it came back to the arbitrator. So they can be mix of mediation come arbitration also. We call it sometimes ARB also, because under Section 13 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, the parties can at any stage of arbitration request for mediation. Well, in arbitration, as also in mediation, both sides should agree, no doubt about it. Only with the consent, tacit consent of the parties, the court or the process of either arbitration or mediation can be initiated. But to me, I tell you, mediation is more informal, more expedient, and less expensive.
Thank you, sir. Rahul, can we take Ayushi Garg?
Sarmaji wanted to add something more. Yeah.
Yes, sir, please.
Can we have the face of the student, those who are asking, in place of just an audio? There cannot be a video.
They have the access. They are not putting it on.
Okay. Then it's okay. Okay.
Rahul, can we take
Mary,
Ayushi?
can you please ask the question? Miss Soumya, anyone? You have the access. You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
I take the question of Ayushi Garg on behalf of Ayushi Garg. Can criminal cases be mediated? If yes, then what kind of criminal cases? Justice, please.
Yeah, I think Sarmaji referred to quite a few instances where, where the criminal cases also can be settled. I had a case in Supreme Court where we finished 64 cases between the parties, some of which were criminal and we quashed. But you're asking about mediated settlement in criminal cases proper. Yes, I'll tell you domestic violence. Then 125, what is this maintenance? 3, it is called check dishonor cases, 138 cases. For all compoundable cases, all compoundable cases under section 320 you can, and those cases which requires permission of the court also. These are the situations I remember are quite possible for you to have a settlement, and more instances probably Sarmaji would be able to tell you.
Thank you. Absolutely, Mrs. Kurian Joseph is absolutely right that there is already a category of cases in the CRPC which is a compoundable, where that can easily be compounded and that can all be resolved mediation. But nowadays, a trend has developed where it has been found that where the criminal offense is an offense not compoundable, but do not fall under the compoundable area. And the first matter, first it came as in 2008. It's a B.S. Joshi's matter, though it was related to a domestic between wife-husband, where there was 498A and 3 and 4 Dowry Prohibition Act and all other 506 or so. And out of it, 498A is not compoundable. So, but the parties decided to resolve it. So therefore, the Supreme Court came out with a concept that since the parties have resolved the matter, and there would not be compounding is not permissible because it's a technical flaw; it can't be technically compounded. So therefore, the continuation of the criminal proceedings would be an abuse of process of law. So therefore, in exercise of its jurisdiction under inherent powers, under 482 CRPC, it quashed it. So this is the way out where the superior courts, High Court and Supreme Court, are taking this route of 482, and even in criminal matters, there will be they are quashing it. And one more chapter which is the legislature has amended. It's a plea bargaining, which has still not yet gone. And I hope during the process, students will be benefited. We'll be requesting that plea bargaining should also be a topic where you will come to know that even in criminal matters, plea bargaining can be evoked and possibly it can be worked on. I hope this response get the answer.
Thank you, sir.
Just to have a final touch on this, wherever the underlying problem is actually a dispute between the parties, which are given rise to a criminal case, a commission of an offense, and the parties themselves have purchased peace between themselves. Ultimately, the whole purpose of penology is, to rehabilitate and reform and usher in peace. If that has otherwise been secured, then as Sharmaji said, Supreme Court also said that it will be a travesty of justice if you don't do that. But only caveat, since we're all in the field of law, that there should not be any failure of justice in exercising this 482 jurisdiction. So you can always ask the parties to have your dispute settled, and then get the assistance of the board in getting the complaint or case or FIR quashed.
Thank you, sir. I request all the students who have been unmuted. Now you can unmute yourself and ask the question yourself, please. I request Sahil Bala to please raise your question. Sahil Bala Tripathi, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Yes, please put your question.
Good morning, sir. My question is how to avoid the essence of bias in the mediation process, and how to condition the parties who are in dispute to come to an outcome in the process of mediation.
What is the first part? How to?
How to avoid the essence of bias in the mediation process. Like if the mediator is biased by listening to one party, then how to avoid, what kind of mental conditioning that mediator as well as the parties need to come to an outcome in that.
Yeah, Sahil Bala, the fundamental principle or basic requirement or precondition is that the mediator should be a neutral person. Completely neutral. If you are biased, then you are not going to be a mediator at all. You cannot be appointed as a mediator, because mediator is a person who keeps the balance absolutely even. That's why, he speaks less and helps others to speak. If you see a professional mediation trainee, you will not find a mediator speaking too much. He will not speak, because even a single observation will be otherwise taken as lopsided, or as something which has some impact on the other side. So he only speaks less. Mediator, or he or she only speaks quite little, and helps the others to speak. And he always hold the scale even, and once his neutrality is questioned, then he's no more a mediator. The party can always can get out of the mediation. The moment you don't trust a mediator, you don't have to continue a mediation. You can get out of it. So maintaining that balance and gaining that confidence, and because the first thing you have to tell in the mediation, that will since you're going to have a learning process, both of us did not explain to it. You will have to tell who you are and what you're going to do. This will have to explain. The first thing the mediator has to do is, you have to tell the process of mediation. And in the process, you have to say who you are and what you propose to do and what you want the parties to do. So in that process, you have to say that you are an absolutely neutral person, that you have no interest. If you have some interest, you have to disclose, and then ask the parties, even then, do you want me to? If you have some interest, please don't get into that mediation at all, because the parties will always suspect your motives, and it is not only that you will lose your the credibility, the glamour of your character, but the whole process of mediation also will suffer in the process.
I add, Shaila, I add to what Justice Kurian Joseph has said, that absolutely mediator has to be neutral. At the same time, in his opening statement, he has to make that I am absolutely neutral. At the same time, there are certain situations which he has to dispel with the apprehension of bias also. So whatever the facts in his knowledge, he must disclose it. I share you, possibly as a student, you will appreciate it, Shaila. I was once an mediator appointed by Supreme Court Mediation Center. One of the parties was a lawyer from my native place, and he was a pretty senior lawyer, and from where I belong to. So when I started with the mediation, during my introduction, I said, sir, I know this lawyer from the beginning, from my native place. He belongs to my native place. So if you feel that I should not be mediator, I'll not be a mediator. Fortunately, both parties, the lawyers and the parties, reposed confidence. They said, no, sir, we have full faith in you. And fortunately, it succeeded also. So therefore, as a mediator, must dispel all apprehension of bias also.
Yeah.
Just like it in Arbitration Act, there is under the schedule, there is an apprehension of bias. As an arbitrator, you must disclose that I have not done any matter of this party before, like this. So the mediator must tell everything and the possibility of any bias. So he must disclose, because bias, if there is a bias, then the whole mediation process goes.
Under the arbitration, the arbitrators under section 12 have to make a disclosure that they have no interest. Is a statutory disclosure.
Yeah, that's a statutory.
They no interest, no connection, and they are not overburdened also. And in mediation, certainly you have to disclose everything. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Bhavya Pratap, you can put forward your question.
Good morning to all. Hello.
Yes,
Yes.
good morning. Bhavya, you are audible.
My question is, what is the procedure for enforcement of settlement arrived at by mediation, and whether such settlement is binding between the parties?
Yeah, in a mediation, if it is in a pending matter, you will have to get this mediation settlement sent to court, and the court will pass a judgment. We call it pass a decree in terms of the settlement. So that becomes an enforceable decree under the CPC. As far as matters which have not come to court, there is one problem still there in mediation, that the agreement does not take the shape of any statutory decree or award or anything. So what we normally do is, in pre-litigation matters, we take it as a conciliation award, make it an award as a conciliator, so that it has the force of a decree.
Sir, Sharma ji, would you like? Sharma sir, would you?
Please, absolutely. This is absolutely clear. As far as the during litigation is concerned, Lordship has said that it becomes a part of decree. In pre-litigation, this question must be of pre-litigation. Pre-litigation, there is no statute as such, but we take it an agreement under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, and then award is being passed under Section 30, which provides that there could be a mediation, conciliation, or arbitration. And the process in, therefore, then award is like an award under Arbitration and Conciliation Act. And that award based on settlement, that can be done, and that's an enforceable order. That is an enforceable order. Otherwise, there could be a problem if there is only a settlement. Tomorrow somebody party says, sorry sir, I don't follow this agreement. You again go to litigation. So that is not there.
Thank you, sir. Client Kolako, you can please put forward your question.
So,
Client Kolako. Yes.
ma'am, this side, Avni Kaur Sethi.
Please.
Hello.
Yeah.
I just,
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Please ask the question.
sir, I want to.
Just please hold on. Let Avneet Kaur Sethi please answer the question. Avneet, please proceed.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, ma'am. My question is to Advocate Sharma, sir. Sir, you just said that it will be once we enter into, I mean, you just quoted Section 30 here, but according to my understanding, it should be Section 73. I mean, in case of pre-litigation matters, when the parties, they enter into any kind of settlement through the mediation process, then I think, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you are absolutely right. Absolutely right. Absolutely
So
right.
Section 73 comes into play. So where Section 30 comes into play when the matter is there before the arbitrator, and the arbitrator himself or the parties, they deem fit. They think that there are chances of settlement.
Avneet, you are absolutely right. What Lordship has said, that when there is an award is to be passed under Arbitration Conciliation Act, then do go for a conciliation. And a conciliation, 73 comes into...
Right. And thereafter 74, right.
So therefore an award is to be passed. What I am
Right.
suggesting is, a lawyer's point of view also. Because as a lawyer, we want the settlement should be binding and enforceable.
Absolutely.
What we do is, so the litigation should come to an end. So what we do is, during a pre-litigation, we ask them to go for an agreement, because in arbitration, you have to go through an arbitration. So then agreement, the party says, I would request so-and-so to appoint as an arbitrator, mediator, or whatever it is, the name of the person. He would adopt the process of arbitration, stroke mediation, or conciliation in accordance with the provisions of Arbitration and Conciliation Act, so that the final award is being passed on the basis of settlement would be an enforceable decree.
Right.
That's an object.
And thereafter,
So reference of 30. And you're right.
Sir, basically 73. This is my humble submission, and I want to bring clarity. I mean, I want to clarify. So after 73, we come to 74. 74 can be equated to Section 30. So 74 here, everybody should know that Section 74 specifies that, if you give me permission to read the same in verbatim, the agreement shall have the same status and effect as if it is an arbitral award on agreed terms on the substance of the dispute rendered by an arbitral tribunal under Section 30. So now let us correlate 73 with that of 74, and 74 is equivalent to 30. So instead of directly saying that it will be an award by virtue of Section 30, is my humble submission that bring 73 and 74 in picture when we talk about the settlement between, when we talk about the situation wherein the parties, they arrived at settlement through conciliation or through mediation. This is my humble submission. Please correct me.
Absolutely. Avnik, you are absolutely, technically you are correct.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Sachin.
Thank you, sir. Client Koloko, now you can please put forward your question. Client Koloko. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I have two questions. One is for Kurian sir and another is for Sharma sir. My question to Kurian sir. Sir, can an arbitration matter, can a land acquisition matter be settled to arbitration?
Can I?
Can a land acquisition matter be settled through arbitration process? And if yes, won't there be a possibility that the arbitrator may be biased because of the state involved in it?
See, the pre-requirement of arbitration is that, the both parties should agree. So if there is an acquisition for a company, the Land Acquisition Act itself contemplates that, there can be a negotiated settlement of the price. So you don't have to go for an arbitration. But in the unlikely event of there will be a land acquisition appeal after the award is passed, and if the party so desire, certainly the requisitioning party, that is called for whom the acquisition has been made by the collector, the requisitioning party and the landowner, if both of them agree that we can go for an arbitration, there is absolutely no problem in having an arbitration tribunal being constituted, and it is you who entrust to arbitration. It can be a sole arbitrator. There's no question of bias because you nominated a third person. In arbitration, there is always a third person who takes the decision. Sharmaji said, no, he adjudicates and takes a decision. It's a decision taken by, it's not a settlement, it's a decision taken by the arbitrator, just like in the court. Number one, it's called an award. Number two, there can be a panel of three. You nominate one, they nominate one, and both of them nominate one. It's called presiding arbitrator, a neutral, particular third arbitrator. These three will form the arbitration tribunal, and the tribunal passes now. There's no question of any bias. And of course, I tell you, since you're a student,
Sir,
bias is a ground.
Clarifying my doubt.
Yeah, bias is a ground for challenging it under Section 34. You can ask the second question to Mr. Sharma.
Yes.
Yes,
Second question.
Line caller को please put forward your question to Mr. James Sharma ji. Okay. Now I request Ayan Khan to please put forward your question. Ayan Khan.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Please
Good
proceed.
afternoon, honorable members of the panelists and the organizers. Question relates to one of the previous answers of the panelists. So I think Justice Joseph said that there is a possibility of compounding the offenses, and mediation is possible over there. So as far as I know, mediation is a confidential proceeding. So like everything that happens during mediation is confidential and cannot go out. So are mediations in the process of compounding of offenses in public domain, because they usually relate to crimes, and usually crime and criminal matters are supposed to be settled in public domain. So are these in public domain, or are these also confidential? And if they are confidential, wouldn't that be against principles of natural justice or something like that?
What you settle in mediation is not the what you call gravity of punishment. Suppose the punishment prescribed is 6 months, you can't negotiate, and that's plea bargaining. So between the parties, suppose there was a dispute on a boundary, and there was a scuffle, and on the scuffle, somebody got a minor injury, and on that, he filed a case, it has become a case, and finally it has a criminal case. It's a compoundable offense. So in that case, you either settle between yourselves on a what you call a monetary compensation, or you say tender an apology and finish it up. So what you did is not something to be forwarded to the court in compounding. In compounding, both parties will have to only report to the court. There's no mediator will not have to send a report to the court. Both parties will have to report court that we have no more any grievance left, or we have settled our disputes, and the court may compound the offense. That's the only thing to be reported. How you did it is not something to be reported to the court in a criminal matter. Yeah. Because there is no decree in a criminal case. Either you're acquitted, because under 320, 320, if I remember right, is the subsection 6. It's an order of acquittal. Unlike there is a small problem in plea bargaining, there is always a conviction, and only your your penalty is reduced, but there is a conviction already. Whereas in compounding, it is an acquittal.
Okay. So are there any classes of mediation? So are there any situations in mediation where it has to be in public domain, where mediation has to be conducted in public domain, with public knowing what is going on inside the room?
No, not at all. Mediation, no, never. Because mediation by its very nature is a confidential affair. You mediator, that's why, I had a mediation. Unfortunately, it failed after several rounds. So much of information was shared to me by both the parties. So the one unhappy party wanted me to send a report to, sir, you must report to the court that, these are the reasons why it failed. I said, no, never. I cannot, I will not, I must not. The reason is whatever that is shared to you is a confidential information. The mediator can never ever share it to the court or anybody else. So there cannot be a mediation in public domain unless both parties want it to be in public domain. If the party says, sir, let us telecast it in the virtual platform. So let it be a model for others. Then of course, the mediator can take a call and finish it. There's no problem. If the both parties really want the people to see it, there is something called, I'll tell you, since I asked that question, there's something called community mediation. Yes. Community mediation is something very interesting. That's an extension of the real mediation. That there's a dispute within a community in respect of a practice, or in respect of a community, the tradition in a community, in respect of something that is always, an observation community, which you in the modern generation, you find it is not good, etc. That is something called, within the community, you can always have a mediation. It's a community mediation. And if there are members of the close community in dispute on an issue, there also a community mediator can be appointed and it can resolve this. And if the community, between a community and a community, if you want something to be resolved in public domain also, then you can put it in public domain. Otherwise, no, never. By its very nature, mediation is a confidential affair.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
I just add, Arshin, I just add, Ayan,
Yes,
I just
sir.
add to it. You have asked about the public domain and the private domain. Sir has rightly said it, the mediation process is confidential. Please bear in mind, it is absolutely confidential. It is within the four corners of the room, and what happens in room doesn't go out of it. However, the outcome, if they arrive at a settlement, settlement will be in public domain, whatever the parties arrive at. And if it doesn't arrive at a settlement, then only mediation failed will go out.
Okay.
However, one more thing which I just add to you, in 2010, there was a AFCONS International, it is 2010, if I rightly recollect, 2010-8, AFCONS International, which is, every student must read that if you want to have a mediation. I request all students must go through that if in the summer school. It is an AFCONS International, that is 2010-8 SCC. I'll give you the page if I'll just.
It is AFCON infrastructure, judgment delivered by
Infrastructure, right.
R.V. Ravindran.
Yes, Justice Ravindran.
Right.
Justice Ravindran has said that order 1 rule 10 CPC litigations, these representative litigations are not amenable to mediation, with the community mediation at that stage. However, we have crossed much after, and recently Supreme Court has attempted mediation efforts were made in two public litigations. One is that which you know about that the matter, and the other was that Shaheen Bagh. Of course, it didn't work out, but it started traveling beyond that. So therefore, in community mediation also, community mediations in India was never prevalent, was not there. Rather, AFCON said it should not be done, but thereafter it ventured. But in West, community mediations is permissible.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
I am this response to you.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now, any other student have any other question? Please can come forward.
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Just to add, in Ayodhya, you remember Supreme Court tried mediation, and part of the issues were settled in mediation also. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is Anupriya, please?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. So, are there any cases where we shouldn't consider mediation?
Anupriya, please repeat your question.
No, question is, are there cases where mediation cannot be tried? Yes. When there is a serious question of law to be decided, you cannot ask for mediation, because everything will depend on the interpretation of a statute. Then it's not a case. But even then, if the parties say, no, we are not interested in interpretation of statutes, we are only interested in settling our disputes, you can certainly go for that. But if the outcome wholly depends on the interpretation of a law, then of course, or issues where constitutional, what you call interpretation of the constitution, a constitutional provision is to be interpreted, then of course no. And where of course, where criminal cases, where, there cannot be any compounding, and where, it is like, what you call the serious criminal cases, like, which cannot be quashed, like say 302. Or like that, where the injury is to the society rather than to the victim. Because the first principle of criminal cases, is the state which is the prosecutor, because it's an offense against the society rather than to a particular individual. In such cases, you can't take recourse to mediation.
And sir, do we need a lawyer in addition to the mediators?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. In the sense, see, the lawyers always objected to this process of ADRs, because, in ADRs, their role is very minimum. Therefore, they were not getting their fees. But I tell you, involvement of the lawyers and cooperation of the lawyers is essential for actual mediation, because the people, the litigants have their faith more in their own lawyers than in a neutral mediator, because the mediator is someone who is appointed. Lawyer is one who is engaged, paid and engaged. So always, the lawyer's presence is actually very good. But sometimes in certain given situations, I have also found that the lawyers themselves have been the obstruction in the mediation being progressed also.
Good afternoon. I have a question for your lordship, if I may.
Yeah, proceed.
Yes, sir. So as we know, mediation is an interest-based approach, whereas litigation is a right-based, both litigation and arbitration. But the person who is conducting a mediation is mostly an advocate who is accustomed to the right-based approach. So, like, how can an advocate, like swap between these things without an hassle? Like, sometimes he's doing a right-based thing, sometimes it's an interest-based thing. So how can he ensure there's no bias, like referring to the rights in a mediation and not the interest?
Mitra, say it's not necessary that in mediation lawyers are there. I've seen several mediations where engineers have come, where sometimes doctors have come. It's not their expertise. Chartered accountants have come. There are two types of mediations. One, the facilitative mediation, the other is evaluative mediation. If you want the chartered accountants evaluative, what you call critical opinion or expert opinion, or also a lawyer on a question of law, then it's an evaluative. As far as mediation through a lawyer is concerned, the mediator does not act as a lawyer. He does not display his expertise in law. He only helps the parties that your rights and law are apart. You are basically your underlying. What is the underlying interest in a dispute? He only helps the parties to evolve solutions. First, to identify the underlying interest, and then to help the parties to evolve solutions for. There's a classic case of the first thing that is taught is orange. There's only one orange, both sides want it. Why are they particular about orange? I'll positive time put it short. Ultimately, there is no question of 50-50 because a party wants an orange itself. So therefore, then the mediator tried to get the underlying interest as to why somebody wants an orange. The one side was only interested in the juice. The other side was actually interested in the rind, the outer cover, because they had a special purpose for this. So the underlying interest of both the parties was emerged. Once it emerged, it was very easy because the one party was interested in the rind, the outer cover. The shell was given to that party, and the one party who wanted only the juice, the substance of inside the kernel was given to that party. So the mediation was successful. So therefore, the lawyer is not actually going to decide the respective rights of the parties, but it's only lawyer as a mediator is only helping the parties to identify their interest and evolve solutions so as to amicably settle.
I just add to it. What Lordship has said, absolutely right. There could be a mediator, could be a law, not apart from lawyer, mediator could be a doctor, chartered accountant, or any other thing. But the lawyer is better because he got an evaluative ability also. So a lawyer can always compartmentalize his ability to compartmentalize situations. Say like if he is there to facilitate, to ask the parties, allow the parties to bring out their interest. And since he is trained and he is understanding the interest part of the parties. So therefore, the lawyer, it can't be said that the lawyer only fights for a rights. That's only one aspect. That's a very limited aspect. Thank you.
Soumya, please ask your question.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, Soumya, you may ask.
So my question is, as it has been highlighted that mediation being a flexible process gives the parties the right to decide for themselves at every stage. However, in practice, parties tend to lose seriousness for this mechanism. In your opinion, how can we stage mediation as a much more preferred option to resolve the disputes?
Sharmaji, would you like to answer?
Sir, in fact, mediation, the concept of mediation is twofold. That's why the training is. The training which gives to the mediator, it inbuilds a lawyer who is trained and who helps the parties to arrive at a settlement. He facilitates. Now, the requirement of taking it seriousness. So, taking a thing seriousness is always an individual perception. There could be a situation, not in the system. There could be a lawyer, there could be a litigant also, there could be an individual adjudicator also who is not taking his job seriously. That's it. I'm not talking about that. I'm just considering how a person who has been entrusted with the job, who is a trained mediator, who has been a lawyer, who facilitates the party, he would not take the matter seriously. Number two, this is a great advantage to the system. Now, the whole lot of a lawyer at present, in the present system, one must realize this fact that there is not many areas in India. If you go for the figure, that is mind-boggling. So therefore, at the same time, there are a lot of aspects it is being said, the number of judges are less, they can't adjudicate, then there are so many other things are there. And a large community who can help in arriving at a settlement, his services is not being taken in arriving at a settlement in resolving the disputes. Their services is only taken to represent the party before a court. So now in mediation process, if it is being done in a structured way, lot many disputes can be resolved. They are just putting up numbers. So the areas would be there. The judge will feel better. That's why the judges also encourage at the district level and at the high court level, they also encourage because they feel that they will have lesser time, they will have more time to adjudicate the important matters. Rest assured, there are many number of matters which have got great importance, which requires consideration, but they are not being adjudicated just because there is a backlog of so many cases. So this mediation would help in reducing the number of areas. So therefore, it has to be taken up seriously.
Thank you, sir. Now, I want to thank you, Mr. Jitendra Sharma ji and Justice Kurian Joseph, who have been so kind to address all the questions of the students so patiently. And thank you for guiding us over the mediation. And today, we are also privileged to have senior advocate and former president of Commonwealth Lawyer Association with us, Mr. Santana sir. I request you, Mr. Santana sir, kindly please deliver your vote of thanks on behalf of Youth Bar Association of India. Please, sir. Santana sir, please unmute yourself. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. What a wonderful beginning for this summer school on mediation. But for the great presence of Justice Kurian Joseph, who was considered to be, a judge who was always in mediation. In Supreme Court, although we have, it's an adjudicatory process, there was one exception, and that exception was Justice Kurian Joseph's court. So it is so nice to have him to begin the summer school. Thank you so much, Justice Kurian, for sparing your time, very valuable time, and to be with the students, not only to formally inaugurate the summer school, but also to answer so many questions that have come up from various students. Thanks also goes to Mr. Sanpreet Singh, the Youth Bar Association head, who thought about the summer school, had a word with our friend Jitendra Sharma, senior advocate, and started this process. Thanks also to Rahul Kumar, who has done everything for us, sitting in the background. And I must also mainly thank Harsheen for making a good beginning, the way in which she began the entire process. Above all, and the most important thing, thanks goes to all the more than 100 participant students from various law colleges across the country. Thank you so much, and we'll continue this process. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Santan. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again so much, sir. And it is always
Thank you so much, sir, for accepting the invitation on
Thank
behalf
you.
of Youth Bar
Thank you,
Association.
Sharma ji. Thank you, Rahul, and everybody. God bless
Thank
you
you,
all.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Arshin.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Santan, sir.
Hope you all had a